Okay, Dan,
Yeah.
we have Renee is here and Pam Riddle is just joined us.
Yes. Hello, Pam Riddle.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear
Oh,
you.
hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
almost.
we can hear you.
You're really
Okay.
breaking up a lot, Renee.
I'm in my mom's app, the only place
I can't make you out.
You say, Renee.
It's not nice, Dan.
Is Pam Riddle our speaker by any chance?
No, that would be
no.
Alex Holland.
It's who?
Alex Holland.
Alex Holland.
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to run any pre-meeting slides, John?
Well, can you see the climate Carol up right now?
Yes, I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave it up for just a little while so that people could enjoy it.
Okay. I see.
I can run the
Okay.
but yes, I'll run the pre-meeting slides as well. Da, da, da.
choppy.
Alex Holland is coming in as I speak.
Okay, and Alex is a woman.
Yes.
You'll want to
Hi,
make,
yes.
you'll want to make it so that she can share her screen with
Right.
us. And I don't know if that means she has to be a co-host or not.
Yep.
I don't.
Yes,
yeah?
she will. Yes, she'll need to be a co-host.
So you can have an unlimited number of co-hosts for a meeting?
I have absolutely no idea. Oops.
John,
Yeah.
am I still choppy?
No, you're not now.
Oh, okay.
Now
I know
you
we've
are.
been trying to do this for a year and a half. Oh, I am now. Okay.
Well, you're better now, Renee.
Okay.
It's much better now.
It's better now. Okay. We have been trying to do this for a year and a half, you and I, but we're at a point where I need to learn to host.
Yeah, that would be good.
Because sometimes even if you're able, you just don't feel like doing it. You've done it a long time and somebody else needs to back you up.
Well, actually, we had two backups that couldn't back up John tonight. My wife and Chris Gouldy. They're both out doing other things. So we would be looking for a third backup.
Well, Renee, excuse me, not Renee, but Victoria said she would, but unfortunately, she's not at her computer. She's driving, so that won't work. Speaking of the devil, she is here.
Maybe she's
Hi,
out of
everybody.
computer.
Hi.
Where are you, Victoria?
I am in the car, multitasking.
Barreling down the highway.
Well, how are you going to co-host if you're in the car?
She's not.
I'm not co-hosting.
So that email was out the window.
There have been developments since then. John and I talked, and we're all good.
Well, that remains to be seen. We'll see about that.
Say, Dan, on the panel, do you see, not the panel, but the task bar there? And it shows mute and start video, security, participants, chat. Do you see that?
Yes, we all have that.
Under participants, since you're the co-host, if you click on that,
Uh-huh.
It'll show you everybody who's participating, but it will show people who are requesting to be admitted. And right now, everybody's in, so there's nobody requesting to be admitted right now.
And what do you do if someone is requesting to be admitted?
You just click on it. It should allow you to give you a question. Should these people be admitted? And you just click yes.
Mm-hmm. What do you click on first?
Where it says participants.
Yeah, I know. I got that. I see all the participants.
Okay, we'll have to wait till somebody else comes in, and you should be able to see somebody requesting to be admitted.
Uh-huh. And you are hypothesizing that anybody that you designated as a co-host will be able to do that.
I am hypothesizing, yes.
Okay, well, that's what we need to see.
Right, we'll have to wait for the next individual.
Okay.
John or Victoria, anyone that you can hear clearly, would you guys mind introducing our speaker out of courtesy since I'm so choppy?
Victoria, that would be you, if not.
I can
Caitlin
also
Miller.
introduce myself if you need me to.
We might, because Victoria apparently is offline
Barreling
right
down the
now.
highway.
No, I'm here. I'm talking. Maybe I'm not coming through. I'm happy to introduce Alex, or she's welcome to.
We heard you, Victoria. I think you were muted for the first part.
Okay, that's good. Sorry about that.
Nice to meet you kind of in person, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. We keep missing each other.
I know. That's okay. We're bound to collide paths at some point.
One of these days.
John, how do you know somebody is trying to get in?
Okay, right now, somebody wants to get in.
Who?
Barry Grubbs, and they're in the waiting room. Can you click on participants and see that?
Well, I've got the participants thing clicked on. And I don't see anything about, oh, okay, there he is. Yeah. Now what?
Okay,
Oops,
and
sorry, I accepted him. I spaced out and went into chapter leadership mode. My bad. I accepted him in.
And did that work? Let's find out if it worked. Is he in?
I believe he is.
Okay, I see. It looks like he is.
Yeah. Okay, now somebody else wants to join. Can you see them? There's two people.
Pad 2, Nancy and Pam. Click.
Yes.
Click. Okay, what
Yes.
do I do about those? Admit all?
If you just go and move your mouse over one of the names to the
Yes.
right, you're going to see it says admit. You just click on admit.
Okay, now I'll do the other one too.
Yes, I'll
And
do
there's
Liz.
and there's Liz Whelan. I'll admit her.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you know they were waiting? You have to have the participants box open?
No, I believe as host, it just popped up on my screen and said that.
So if I close that box,
You might not see it.
I might not see it. Yeah, I guess I can just check once in a while. Participants thing.
Yeah. Or you can look at the number. Currently, it's 13.
Mm-hmm.
And if it goes to 14 or 15, then you can click.
Oh, it'll
And
go
you'll
to
know.
14. It'll go, oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
Ruth Al Halali. I'll
looks
admit
like it.
her.
Please do.
She's admitted. Well, I'm getting good at this, John.
Good. Because I'm going to need to go do something in a few minutes.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that. Now the
All right.
speaker knows you're not going to listen to her presentation.
Well, I'll be back listening.
Oh, you will?
Well, yeah, I just got things I got to get done.
Mm-hmm.
So all we got to take off first thing in the morning.
Oh. Nancy, is she in? I guess so. She's waving at us.
Yes.
Who admitted Nancy?
You did it.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, whomever I'm talking to. I don't know. I can't see.
You're talking to the boss.
Oh, good. I love the boss.
You love the boss.
To everyone. Everybody,
Who
Dan,
is it?
I just
Hi,
sent you,
Liz.
It's Liz.
I love
Yes, Liz.
it. I was just going to say the backpacking 101. I just saw that. That's terrific.
Well, do you
Thank you.
I need a copy of that.
have a minute?
And Dan, I sent you a note about a couple quick announcements.
Well, we'll let you
usual.
you can make them when we get down to committee
Yes.
announcements.
Yes.
Boy, this problem I've got with my throat and voice is killing me.
Who is that speaking? Who just said this problem I've got with my voice is killing me? Oh, it must have been Barry because he just muted himself.
It is, and I was looking forward to a presentation tonight at 7 o'clock. Is it going to occur?
Well, of course it's going to occur, Barry. We don't let our constituents down. We're the Dallas Sierra Club.
Great.
You can count on us, Barry. One,
That's
two,
great.
three. It won't occur at 7 because we'll have a few pieces of business. It'll occur shortly after 7.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it.
It is now shortly after 7. So I don't know, we have people come in late a lot. So we may want to get going. I don't see anyone else that's waiting at this point. So presently we have what, 14 participants. Well, let's go ahead and start. People will come in, I suppose, now from time to time. But okay, this is the general meeting, the December general meeting of the Dallas group of the Sierra Club. I'm Dan Moulton. Welcome, everybody. Oh, John just put up a meeting agenda. I didn't know we had that. We have had our pre-meeting social gathering. You just got the introduction and welcome from the chair. Now we're going to go to committee reports. So Conservation Eco Action, that's Victoria. Can you hear me, Victoria?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Dan?
Yes, we hear you quite well.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. It is wonderful to see you virtually. I don't have much to report as everything is kind of winding down for the holiday season, but come January, we always need more help with the plethora of environmental issues that we deal with on a regular basis. So if anyone would like to participate, you are welcome to. Please email me at victoria@dallassierraclub.org and we will put you to work. So thank you, Dan. That's all I got.
Okay, John, could you put that agenda back up so I can see what we're supposed to do next? Okay, there it went. Oh, don't miss it this time or we'll have to run through this again. There it is, stop. Okay, upcoming programs. Either Renee or Victoria, can you mention about our upcoming programs?
Yes,
Sure.
I'm going to be.
Can you hear me?
Oh, Renee, do you want to go? Go ahead. Sorry.
If you can hear me, I just want to let everybody know I'm having connection problems as usual, but we have a speaker for January. It is the Ned Fritz group. And then for January, I haven't gotten an actual confirmation, but I'm trying to get, for February, Dave Cortez.
Who? Dave. Oh, Dave Cortez. Yeah. He
He
is
answered
the-
me one time within the last couple of weeks, and he and the whole team would like to present. So
Okay. David Griggs is not here yet, right? May not be here at all. I don't know. Outdoors. Is Arthur here yet? No?
No, he's not.
Okay, then Liz, you want to say
Sure.
something about outdoors and
I'd love to, absolutely.
ICO?
Okay, welcome everyone. I'll ditto Victoria on that. For other ways to get involved, if you're so inclined, our outings program is kind of revving back up for next year. Have several things in the planning stages. Coming up first is the end of January. It's the 28th. We have a beginner backpacking class. It's Backpacking 101. It's a great class for those interested in backpacking, like getting into a little bit off the main beaten path and into the wilderness a little bit more. Also, just anybody that wants to kind of up and learn or tune their skills for camping. We just cover a whole slew of topics. It's from 10 to 4 on January 28th. The cost is $25. That includes a light lunch of a backpacking sampling of foods. And it's just a really fun way to learn about things, tricks of the trade, things that we wish others had told us before when we got started to make it cheaper or easier or more fun or all of the above. So we welcome you for that. We do ask that you sign up ahead of time. And that's, you can go to the outings page or the calendar, and there's a link to do that, or to contact me if you have any questions. And all are welcome on that. You don't need to be a member. Age-wise, I would say probably like middle school and up. We've had a little younger, but totally up to you, but all are welcome. And then I'll go on. The other thing for outings is early in February, beginning on Wednesday, the 8th of February, is our annual trip to Big Bend National Park. And if you've never been, that's just a jewel of Texas that you shouldn't miss. And if you have been, you know already what a wonderful experience that can be. So we have 3 trip options, and that includes a base camp where you can do day hikes from there, and also some backpacking. So the different levels, different difficulties of interest to you. And again, that's on the outings page. And then the other thing I'll go on with ICO, or Inspiring Connections, is our amazing outreach program. We've been dormant because of COVID and getting back on, but I'm thrilled to announce that we have just in the last week partnered with Wesley Rankin Community Center, which has been around for over 100 years. They help kids and we'll be working with K through high school. And these are kids in West Dallas that are low income or underserved and can just really use us in getting them outdoors into nature and to experience, all that offers. So I will be doing a volunteer training, which is required in January, probably the 29th, either the 22nd or the 29th. It's a Sunday afternoon. So if that's anything of interest, or you just like more information, my email is also on the website, and I'd love to chat with you. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, before we go on to our program, I see that we've been joined by a Haley. I'm wondering who that is.
I'm
Hello?
Ruth. Excuse me. I'm Ruth Al-Halali, and I'm here for the program.
No, do we have a Haley?
Oh, I don't know Haley. I thought you were talking about.
No,
me.
I'm talking about the Haley that was here. Are they
I don't
gone
see-
now? I
They
just
were.
want to know if it's Margie Haley. Okay, well, maybe they left when I asked who they were.
If it is Mark, she'll get back on if she,
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point, I think we are ready to introduce our speaker and go on with our program for the night. So who wants to introduce? Will it be Renee or Victoria? Renee, you want to do it?
No, I was asking if Victoria could do it because I can't see the everything that I need to see to do a proper
Okay.
introduction.
Victoria,
for our
can you
speaker.
introduce our speaker?
I absolutely can. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Alex Holland, who is the vice chair of the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of Climate Reality Project. And lots of our conservation members have gone for their training in the last year. So we are pleased as punch to have her here. And without further ado, Miss Alex, please take it away.
Thank you, Victoria, and thanks for having me, y'all. I'm excited to be here. I know we cross paths a lot, so it's always fun to be able to collaborate with everybody in the environmental area in the North Texas region. Is it okay if I go ahead and start sharing my screen? Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Cool. See if I can do it is the question.
You
Let's
hit the share screen button, right?
Yeah, I normally present on Microsoft Teams, so Zoom is different for me. All right, let me see. Come on now.
Climate
There we go.
change. What about Texas?
Y'all can see that?
Yes.
Perfect. All righty, everybody. So like Victoria was said earlier, my name is Alex Holland. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a licensed master social worker in the state of Texas, and kind of where my interests with climate change overlap is with public health. So you'll hear me allude to that probably pretty often throughout the presentation. But I really wanted to take an opportunity to kind of share. This is a previous presentation that I've used before at the National Association of Social Workers in Texas chapter conference that we had back in October in Galveston, because a lot of times I feel like, especially in Texas, we don't necessarily talk about climate change as often as we should, or it's almost like a taboo subject down here in the South. And so really wanted to take an opportunity to share about what I've learned and hopefully provide maybe some information that other people can use as well. A lot of this is probably going to be very familiar for all of you. So, I appreciate your patience if I'm beating a dead horse, so to speak, but hopefully we all learned something new, and I'm going to have an opportunity for questions and comments at the end as well. So feel free to hold on to any tidbits of information you want to share with me. And yeah, so we'll go into that. I did want to take a moment really quickly to share our diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice agreements that we use at the Climate Reality Project, because climate change can be kind of a heated topic, if you will excuse the saying there, but just wanted to take a moment to share this. So what we do is we assume good intentions, but we also know that good intentions do not negate harm. We want to step up, step back. If you find yourself dominating the conversation, please step back. If you find yourself not involved in the conversation, please step forward. Please speak from the I perspective about your own experience. Please do not speak for others. Seek to understand by practicing active and deep listening. Ask questions and make no assumptions. Be willing to be uncomfortable and participate in challenging conversations. Disagree without discord, and accept that there is no quick fix. And so with that being said, I wanted to take a moment to share about what Climate Reality Project actually is, because I know a lot of times there is overlap in what we do. But what Climate Reality is we were originally founded by the former Vice President Al Gore, and was kind of kickstarted with his film An Inconvenient Truth. I'm sure many of you have seen that documentary, kind of kickstarted my journey as well. But our mission is to catalyze a global solution to the climate crisis by making urgent action a necessity across every sector of society. And the way that we achieve that is through annual trainings that Victoria talked about earlier, where everybody is welcome to come, where you become a trained climate reality leader. We talk about the basics of climate change and communicating about climate change, as well as advocacy and community mobilization. And then we also use the chapter program. And the chapters program was started in 2017, and that's also when Climate Reality DFW was formed. We're one of the largest chapters in the United States. I think we're second to San Francisco Bay Area, but we're definitely top 3. We are completely volunteer run, and then the membership kind of trickles in back and forth, but typically we have about 332 members and 142 of them are trained climate reality leaders, which just means that they participated in the training. And at Climate Reality DFW, our mission statement is we envision a world where climate dialogue is normalized and everyone has equal access to clean water, clean air, nourishing food, clean electricity, and a healthy and just environment. So that's us. So now let's talk about climate change 101. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this image that's in the background. So this is the climate warming stripes by Ed Hawkins. And so each stripe represents a year, the global average of temperature for that year from the 1880s all the way up to, I think it goes to 2021 right now. And so it's just a really great visualization of how our climate is changing, to put it bluntly. You can especially see in these later years, the temperature is increasing drastically. And so what climate change is, and just to give you a little bit of background, like I said, I'm a social worker. I'm not a climate scientist. I'm not even a scientist. I work with people for a living. But what I love about Climate Reality is that I was educated enough on how to simply communicate what climate change is in a way that hopefully everybody can understand without getting into like the really nitty-gritty details of everything. And so what that looks like is climate change is just solar radiation in the form of light waves passing through our atmosphere. And most of this radiation is absorbed by the Earth and warms it. And some of that's radiated back to the Earth in the form of infrared waves. And so when it's captured by our atmosphere, it helps warm our Earth, which is incredibly important because without that atmosphere capturing some of that energy, we wouldn't be able to survive because our planet would be too cold. That's why there's no real life on the moon, because they don't have an atmosphere to keep the temperature stable. So we need our atmosphere. We need some of that heat coming back towards us. The problem, though, becomes as we are adding more and more greenhouse gases to our atmosphere, more and more of that outgoing energy is being trapped, which is resulting in the increased warming that we're seeing today. And so you might have heard the greenhouse gas metaphor, and that's what a lot of people use, but lately the dialogue has been shifting towards more thinking about it like a thick blanket wrapping around the world, just because not everybody has seen a greenhouse or knows what a greenhouse is, but hopefully most people are familiar with what a blanket is. So as we are pumping more and more greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, it's like we're adding more and more blankets to our planet, which is giving it a fever, basically. It's overheating at this point. And so hopefully this video plays really quickly. It always starts at the end. I don't know why. But this was created by NASA and Ed Hawkins, the person who did that climate warming stripes picture earlier. But it's a really great visualization of how the temperature is shifting from what used to be our average temperature. And so starting in the 1880s, we see the temperature is pretty stable now, like globally, the average, it's even drifting a little bit colder, almost towards the -1 degree Celsius change. But then especially with World War II, we start seeing it swinging more outwards. And then it holds steady for a little bit. You know, it's increasing, but not drastically, but you're going to see it pick up pretty dramatically in the 1980s when we really started pumping out more and more fossil fuels and greenhouse gases. And so we see it swing more and more outwards towards that 1 degree Celsius temperature change. Which brings us to it's 2021 right now is the update that they have. But as you can see, this just provides a really good example of or a really great visualization of how much the temperature has changed. And it's about at, I think, 1.1 degrees Celsius so far is what we're at. No, I don't want to watch it again. There we go. Okay, and this is just another way to visualize it. The global surface temperature depart from the average. You can see it was relatively colder than we've seen from that 0.0 degrees Celsius. It picked up a little bit during World War II, but then especially since the 1980s, you just see it go whoop. And the reason for that is the burning of fossil fuels. You can see our billion metric tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. You see that pick up right when the temperature starts changing as well, or starts drastically increasing. And then if you're familiar with the IPCC report, they stated that it is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with the IPCC, that stands for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. That's basically a bunch of scientists that get together every few years and look at all of the science research. It's very thorough, it's very scientifically based, and then they put out this report. And so they're saying, yes, it's a problem. Yes, it's us. Yes, we need to do something about it. But what about Texas? You know, we talk about the global temperature, we talk about climate change as this global phenomenon, which it is. But what about where we live? And so these are actually news headlines that I pulled this last summer during that big heat wave that we had. And so as Texas grid falters, energy advocates urge Biden to declare climate emergency. 7 ways climate change is already hitting us. Typical Texas heat wave or the coldest summer of the rest of our lives. So we're talking about it. And that's what I'm hoping that tonight's presentation will also facilitate, is more talking about it, because now we're seeing stuff actually being done about it. But in order to talk about it, we have to know what's going on with Texas. So let's start with heat, extreme temperatures and heat. That's probably the one that everybody is at least somewhat familiar with. You can see over here, this is Texas's climate warning stripes. So you can see that our average temperature is a little bit warmer than the global average. You can see more warm colors in there. But especially towards this latter time, you're starting to see more and more deep, dark reds, which is a problem because that means it's getting hotter and hotter in Texas. Our Texas climate scientologist, our climatologist, apologies, has projected that surface temperatures in Texas will be about 3 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the 1950 to 1999 average, and or 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the 1991 to 2020 average by 2036. So it's going to keep getting hotter here, and we're going to see this pretty drastic change in just a few years. And then the number of 100-degree Fahrenheit days are expected to double by then as well. So it's getting hotter, and then it's also really hot for more and more days at a time. So these are all issues that we're probably, being in Texas, we're familiar with heat, but not to this state and not to this, we're not prepared for this amount of warming, I think. But conversely, something that maybe we don't talk about as much in Texas is extreme cold temperatures, which is something that is being affected by climate change, and we'll get into that momentarily. So what's happening, or how we can relate climate change effects to the extreme cold temperatures like Winter Storm Uri that we saw back in 2021, is as the temperatures are increasing in the Arctic, the polar vortex that's holding that cold air up north is becoming unstable. And so that cold air is escaping as our jet stream is becoming wavier. And there's a really cool graphic in the next slide that I'll show you that kind of details that further. But these are just some pictures that this is actually my younger brother's apartment back in 2021. His apartment, the pipes froze and then they bust and flooded his apartment and he had to move. So we're seeing the effects of this already on people. And this, I just find this image amusing because you see it's West Texas, it's desert, there's snow, and then there's this oil pump jack out here. So it's like, just very poetic in my opinion. But this is what we're seeing. So in an ideal, healthy temperature world, we have a stable polar vortex, and this is because a strong jet stream is containing all of that cold air. But what we're seeing is that as temperatures are becoming warmer in some parts of the country and of the world, that warm air is moving north, the cold air is moving south because the jet stream has become so weakened and wavy. And so what ended up happening with Winter Storm Uri, they found, is that one of these arcs basically parked itself over Texas and just kind of sat there and held the cold air in for a while. So that was why it lasted for so long as well. And so climate change is affecting cold temperatures as well. Another effect of climate change that we're seeing, especially in Texas, maybe more down south, but still relevant to our state, is the effect on hurricanes. And so while there has been debate on whether or not climate change is leading to more frequent hurricanes, we do know that hurricanes are becoming stronger and more devastating because of climate change. And this is because warmer air holds more moisture, which is adding both power and water to the storms. In addition to that, as our sea levels are rising due to melting icebergs, as well as water expanding when it gets warm, so we have our sea levels rising, and this increases the damage from storm surges, which is some of the most damaging effects of hurricanes. In addition, it's estimated that climate change actually made the precipitation from Hurricane Harvey back in 2017 15% more intense. And all of this combined together can damage infrastructure, which includes oil rigs and refineries, which increases the risk of devastating oil spills and leaks. So basically, powerful hurricanes, not good. And this is just a quick image of Hurricane Harvey forming in the Gulf of Mexico. And I want you to pay attention to how big this storm is, and especially what happens when it reaches landfall. So you can see as it makes landfall, it's still a really big storm. And in addition, you can see it almost parking over the land and really wall area. And it's thought that this could potentially be due to the storm being so powerful that it doesn't just like automatically dissipate once it hits land. And this is another video that a friend sent me who lives in Houston, and she's in a 3rd floor apartment, and you can see these treetops just, it is absolutely flooded from when the bayou kind of overran with water. So this is causing a lot of damage. And this is something we're seeing in Texas. Next slide, come on. There we go. What's interesting is that it's also the driest here that it's been in over the last 1,200 years. So we're under what's called a mega drought. And so how that's related to flooding, or where the issue from that comes, is that with warmer air holding more moisture, we're seeing what's called rain bombs, which is just essentially the clouds hold so much moisture and then they just dump it all over the place. And then the ground is unable to absorb water as quickly when it's dry, which, you know, and then in addition to like impervious surfaces, which is referring to, you know, concrete, kind of this built human-made areas, and a lack of vegetation from like lack of forests, lack of grasslands that we've kind of built over, we see a lot of rainfall in areas that people frequent. So this is a video, and Renee, you'll probably recognize this too. This is a video that a coworker and friend took, Chelsea, in Parkland and UT Southwestern area. So you can see just, this was last year, all of the water and flooding that's going on. And as we're seeing this more and more often with flash floods, you're going to see damage to infrastructure. You're going to see people's lives being affected. Thankfully, nobody died, I think, during this flash flood. But the risk is run, and we read about it probably every year when the flash floods hit. And this is just an image of a rain bomb in Midland, Texas. And you know, if you've ever been out west in Midland, you know it's pretty dang dry there. So ground is super dry, rain gets dumped over the area, creates a flash flood risk. And just like you can see the power that this storm has and the amount of water that it's being held. And then something that maybe we associate more with drought is wildfires. So the higher temperatures are pulling moisture out of the ground, which, you know, makes pretty good sense. But the fires are starting from everything from lightning strikes to sparks and other causes. And what's interesting about this is that it's projected that lightning strikes are going to increase by 12% for every degree Celsius of warming. So you see this kind of awful feedback loop we get into, where as it's getting drier and drier, we're having more wildfires, which adds more pollution to the atmosphere, more greenhouse gases with the CO2 being added, which increases our risk for lightning strikes, which increases our risk for more fires, and thus the cycle continues. And what's interesting about this too is that it doesn't just have to be lightning strikes causing these fires. It's thought that the big Possum Kingdom fire that we had this last year was caused from light passing through a discarded glass bottle and refracting, like, you know, a magnifying glass when you hold it in the sun. It basically just did that, and up the fire went, destroyed several houses. So wildfires destroy property, it can create public health hazards, and accelerate climate change. And then I also wanted to briefly talk about pollution, which is something that maybe we're more familiar with in Texas when we get like the ozone alerts. Pollution is not necessarily directly affected by climate change, but they are associated together. The exception to that is ground level ozone, which I'll get into in just a second. But the reason I wanted to include it is because a lot of the things that are causing or contributing to climate change are also contributing to a lot of the pollution that we see, especially in the DFW area. So a lot of times what you'll see it referred to as PM 2.5, which just stands for particulate matter 2.5. The 2.5 is referring to the diameter, so 2.5 microns. And the reason you'll see this one a lot is because it's actually one of the more damaging pollutants to human health. Because it is so small, it's able to bypass all of your body's basically defense mechanisms. So it can get into your lungs, can pass your blood-brain barrier, get into your brain. It's also thought that it might be contributing to dementia. So your risk of dementia increases, your risk of brain damage increases with this particulate matter pollution. And that pollution is created from everything from car exhaust to industrial activities, basically everything we also associate with contributing to climate change. And the one pollutant that is made worse by climate change is actually ground level ozone. And the reason we see those alerts a lot of times in the summer is because what happens is that these volatile organic compounds and nitrous oxides are combining with heat and sunlight. So in the summer, we have more of both of those. So you get more of that chemical reaction, which creates that ground level ozone. And what that does is it, again, damages your lungs, your brain, basically every part of your body, which is why they encourage you to kind of not go outside during high levels of ground level ozone. And the chemicals that help contribute to that chemical reaction are also emitted from industrial facilities, car exhaust. That's why you're encouraged to carpool, so there are less vehicles, those kinds of things. And just some examples of pollution here in the DFW area. I'm sure many of us are probably pretty familiar with Shingle Mountain, but just in case, Shingle Mountain was basically a mountain of asphalt shingles that popped up overnight in a predominantly Black and brown neighborhood, the Floral Farms area. And it was aggravating residents' health. If you know Marcia Jack, like her lungs were affected, her throat was affected. She's still going to the doctor and you'll have to correct me. I can't remember the exact timeline, but I believe it took them 3 to 5 years to actually get this moved. It was only recently moved. So that was a big issue for both environmental justice as well as human health and pollution. And then an ongoing fight that's happening right now regards the GAF plant in West South Dallas, so in the Singleton corridor. The GAF plant is basically an asphalt shingle, again with the shingles, asphalt shingle manufacturing plant. And the manufacturing of those shingles includes petroleum products, so oil. So you're seeing a lot of those same like volatile organic compounds, the nitrous oxides, all of those things that are aggravating to human health, also being used in the production of these asphalt shingles. And so I know residents in that area are trying to get GAF to shut down quickly out of concern for their health. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on going forward. And if you're interested in helping them, I know they could use the help pressuring the city of Dallas to do something. But what does that mean for us? I've talked all about what's happening in Texas, what's going on, but what does that actually mean? And so this is a really great graphic from the CDC that shows how the different effects of climate change are actually affecting our health. So we've got the increasing CO2 levels, the rising temperatures, more extreme weather, rising sea levels, and that's contributing to a plethora of issues. We know about extreme heat and how that can lead to heat-related illness, death, cardiovascular failure, especially if you have pre-existing conditions. Severe weather, we have the injuries and fatalities, but then we also have the mental health impacts. And as a social worker, that's an area of great concern for me. And what you'll see rates of post-traumatic stress disorder sharply increase whenever there's been a severe weather event, most often hurricanes. With air pollution, you'll see more asthma, you'll see respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular disease, changes in vector ecology. And what that just means is that vectors are anything that transports disease. So normally like mosquitoes, ticks, those kinds of things. And so as the climate is changing, their ranges are changing as well. So like in Texas, we know about West Nile virus. We've kind of been dealing with that for a while, but we're also starting to see more diseases that are usually found in like tropical regions of the world, like dengue and chikungunya in Texas as well, which means that those mosquitoes are kind of moving northward, where they used to not be able to go because it would get too cold here. So we're seeing changes there as well. Increasing allergens as the climate gets warmer, there's more CO2 in the air, plants are producing more allergens as well, which can lead to asthma, respiratory illnesses. We know about spring problems in Texas, that's pretty familiar. Water quality impacts, food and water supply impacts. So we have both issues of quality and quantity, not enough good, healthy water and food for people, which can lead to, civil conflict, forced migration. With environmental degradation, people are forced to relocate because they are no longer able to live in the area that they have lived their whole lives, essentially. So these are all issues that we're facing as far as like human health is concerned. And then worldwide, air pollution from fossil fuels kills about 8.7 million people every year. So this is something to be concerned about. And I believe y'all talked about environmental justice the last time, so I won't get too terribly into this. But just due to years of systemic neglect, a lot of times communities of color and under-resourced communities are unable to prepare or for and recover from disasters, which can lead to disproportionate outcomes. And what's interesting about this is that for the US counties most vulnerable to disaster, 6 of those are in Texas. Most of them are in South Texas. But in addition to that, the population in these areas are on average 81% persons of color. And so there's a disparity here that needs to be addressed. And especially when you're in an area that is under-resourced, for example, just 1 inch of flooding can cause about $25,000 in damage. And if you live in an area where maybe you've been denied insurance or you just don't have the financial resources to rebuild and recover from that, it can put you in a very difficult position where either you're forced to move or even potentially become unhoused just because you no longer have the ability, you're not able to rebuild because you've been denied those resources. And so a lot of times I feel like, especially in the environmental sector, we're very good at the doom and gloom part, but we're not very good at the action part. And so I wanted to provide some opportunities for action here and not just be all doom and gloom. So what can we do about it? The good news is all of the technologies that we need to achieve the necessary cuts in greenhouse gas emissions already exist, and the science is solid and the policies that can deploy them are proven. So what that means is we can do it, we just need to do it. In Texas, our wind energy capacity is absolutely amazing. You can just see how much that provides. Offshore wind potential in the Gulf of Mexico is more than double the amount of electricity currently consumed by all of the Gulf South states. So not just Texas, but also Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, all of us. And we don't just have wind, we also have solar, which puts Texas in an absolutely great position economically and environmentally. We have so much capacity for both wind and solar here. And then in addition to this, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was just recently passed, will provide $67 billion in clean energy in Texas by 2030. So not only do we have the energy potential, but this is going to create so many jobs for people and just really drives home the fact that this is doable and Texas can lead the way here. So what can you do? Well, we know that we have the CCAP, or the Dallas Comprehensive Climate and Environmental Action Plan. So we can help contact our representatives and tell them, hey, we think that we should spend that money this way. Every state is going to be getting some money from the Inflation Reduction Act. And so by talking about this to our representatives really lets them know that, hey, this is important. And Dallas knows it's important because they have this CCAP plan. So really telling them, hey, I think we should spend the money this way could be an opportunity for action. In addition to that, we also have chapter events. I know y'all do a lot of stuff at Sierra Club, which is amazing. This is just an example of something we did at Climate Reality. The Campaign for Our Coast was an initiative by the Texas chapters of Climate Reality. So we have a chapter in DFW as well as Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. And to make a long story short, basically the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which is in charge of all of the offshore drilling and also offshore renewable energy infrastructure, put out a plan that was going to be leasing a lot of acreage for fossil fuel infrastructure and development in the Gulf of Mexico. So just like right off the coast of Galveston. But what happens when they do something like this is you can actually submit public comments either in favor of or against whatever they're proposing. So we rallied a bunch of chapter members as well as other people to submit public comments against this in coordination and kind of in support with other organizations doing this as well. Taproot Earth and Gulf South for a Green New Deal were very big players in this. And at the end of the day, thousands and thousands of comments were submitted to the BOEM. Unfortunately, the Inflation Reduction Act did complicate things. The fine print basically entailed that in order to have renewable infrastructure built, you also had to have a certain amount of acreage for fossil fuel development released as well. So we're still waiting to see what kind of comes from this, but I really want to focus on the fact that, you know, so many people submitted comments for this, which just shows the power of what happens when we all work together as a team and a community. But speaking of team and community, let's talk about what you can do. I love this GIF. For those of you who have watched the movie Don't Look Up, I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it already. It's a movie. The whole idea is that there's an asteroid about to hit the planet, but really it's an allegory for climate change. So if you've ever talked about climate change before and been frustrated that people aren't listening to you, watch that movie. You will feel very validated and also frustrated because a lot of the things that happen there also happen in real life. But what can you do? And so this is an activity, and I can share these slides after I'm done, and so don't feel like you have to do this right now. But this is an activity called Your Climate Superpower. It's by Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. She's amazing. She's an ocean scientist, marine biologist who works a lot on ocean policy, especially as it's affected by climate change. And this is from her All We Can Save initiative. And so what you do for this is you create this Venn diagram and you think about, what is the work that needs doing? What are you good at? And then what brings you joy? And then you look at the intersection of those three, and that's your climate superpower. And what I love about this is it doesn't have to be like your day job or like what you do for a living. It could be something completely unrelated. So like I said, I'm a social worker, but my climate superpower is I actually love to connect people in the environmental movement who I think would really help different initiatives or actions going. So you'll hear me, like, if you ever get an email from me saying, hey, I think you should meet this person, that's me doing what my climate action like superpower is. I know other people who, I think y'all will probably relate to this very well. They know that like loving nature and loving the environment is a lot of times the very first step for people to start taking action and conserving our natural resources and trying to prevent climate change. So they'll lead people on hikes like you were talking about, or little nature walks, just to bring people, they can't love what they don't know. And so they're trying to address that. And so I would encourage all of you to do this at some point if you ever feel like maybe you're not sure what your next step should be, or maybe what you're not really sure how you fit into the whole climate change advocacy environment. And then there's more information about that as well here. And then I also want to encourage everybody to connect. This is the number one thing that I recommend when it comes to preventing climate change and climate change mitigation. You know, system change, not climate change, so to speak. Because while one person can't necessarily create a big change, we do know that a community can. And so between being in a chapter like you all are, which is incredible, to even our chapters, you know, networking together and supporting each other's efforts, this is what we need to build a mass movement. And this is why I'm always trying to connect other people to each other, because I know this is how we get where we need to be on time. So I would encourage all of you to do the same. Just reach out to people, can make connections, look for what you're interested in, all of that. And this is just if you want to learn more. We've got the drawdown solutions up here if you want to know more about like the science-y part of things. Different opportunities to read. I would highly recommend the All We Can Save anthology by Drs. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson and Catherine Wilkinson. Of course, Don't Look Up is under my watch list just because, like I said, it makes me feel very heard and seen when I watch it, even if it is frustrating sometimes. But yeah. This is the opportunity for questions. I'll stop sharing my screen in a second. I also have my references if anybody's interested in those. So.
Okay, now's your chance to ask Alex questions.
Alex.
Yes, Renee, hi.
Hi. I would just like to thank you for the presentation. It was very good. It's a lot of, good information and things to think about. And I think you made a good point that we need to look and see what each one of us can do individually, then combine that as a community. One of the things I'm trying to do right now is educate on get the members of that team CCAP racial equity plan to come out in the community and explain, because there's still lots of disparities. And because of that, there's still a lot of mistrust. And when I go out in the community, they're not believing that this is going, to happen. So we can't just talk the talk. We have to walk the walk. I'm the environmental commissioner for District 8, and a lot of District 8 is in a floodplain, including Shingle Mountain. And some of these people, when they moved into their homes and bought that land, they were not in a floodplain. But now with the way things have changed, they are, and there's little being done to build up barriers or things that will reroute the flood water somewhere else. And Shingle Mountain was the area where the shingles were. That was, City of Dallas bought that up. And so you had talked about how long ago it was. And it's been about 5 years that we've been dealing with it and finally got at least, something done, but there's still some environmental issues down there they need to work on. And like I said, I don't have a question. I just wanted to compliment you on the work that you're doing, and I'd like to collaborate I like collaborating, and those 3 points about how to figure out if you are what your superpower is are great. They're the same formula that you use when you're trying to start a business. What am I good at? What do I like to do? And how can I move forward? Those are the same things. You very seldom you do not do well at things that you're not good at or that you're not interested in, So I think that's an excellent point. Just sitting down, brainstorming, looking to see what am I interested in the environment? Is it air, water, what? And then going from there.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Renee. And we also need to follow up with Dr. Estelle about our the stuff we were working on.
Oh yeah. Busy in the hospital. They put her in the
hospital. I know they
and that
do.
made yes.
Okay, do we have other questions? Okay, let me ask you one, Alex.
Go for it.
There are other organizations that are national that deal with the same problem, climate change. For instance, the Citizens Climate Action Lobby and 350.org, if they're still around. One of our members, Molly Rook, is very active in 350.org. I think they're going to need to change their name since we're already at about 420 parts per million CO2. Yeah. Ought to be 450.org now. What I'm wondering is if there's any interaction between you and these other big climate action groups.
Yeah, for sure. So Molly is actually one of ours as well. So she brings a lot of the collaboration to us. But yeah, we actually, when was it? Was it 2020? 2021? I think it was October of 2020. We actually collaborated with Sunrise Movement Dallas and 350.org Dallas to do a protest at the Federal Reserve National Bank in downtown, trying to encourage them to pick a new leader that is focused on not investing in more fossil fuel infrastructure with national monies. So we do stuff like that. And that's actually something that I really wanted to do more as the chapter vice chair, is really trying to do more collaboration. We are, a subset of national climate reality. We're just one of the chapters, but climate reality does do a lot of collaboration with them. And then we want to do it even more at the local level, which is why I'm so excited when Victoria reached out to me, as well as, we talk to Hope with Sunrise sometimes. But really trying to get that collaboration going, like you were talking about, because like I said, that's how we build a movement. That's how we get this thing off the ground, because a lot of times we're all so siloed in our own little environmental sector that, there's so much opportunity there. We just have to kind of collaborate and get it going.
Okay, well, we have time for some more questions. So surely you must have, Alex presented a lot of
information, y'all.
A lot of information, and some of those figures were actually quite complicated and hard to understand if you really look into what they're saying. But surely somebody has some questions. No?
I have one.
Yeah.
Could you tell us again the site or who did that YouTube video that was the spiral?
Yeah, that was Ed Hawkins and NASA, and he's actually the one who did the stripes originally. So he did the stripes and then he did the spiral video. And if you give me a second, I can actually find it on YouTube and give it to you.
I just thought if I Googled like Ed Hawkins YouTube on YouTube or something. I just thought that
Let me
was
see.
visual.
Yeah, if you like search Ed Hawkins climate spiral, it's the thing that comes up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And what about the screen that was the solid, the lines? It went from the blue lines over to the red lines?
Yeah, same. So still Ed Hawkins, but those are the climate stripes.
I'm a stripe. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. It's fun. They've
some-
started making like shirts and stuff with those stripes. I've been tempted to buy one.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Some of the figures you used, I have actually used and pulled off the internet. If you're interested in graphics about these issues, you can just Google, say, climate change graphics, sea level rise graphics, or whatever you're interested in. You'll get just a tremendous large number of graphs that you can choose from, and they have generally they'll have a credit as to where they're coming from. Like, is it NOAA, NASA? It isn't just, some guy puts this up on Wikipedia or something like that. You have to be careful about that. But if it comes from NOAA, NASA, or an agency like that, I pretty much have faith in the information. It's the best that we have. Do we have any other questions? Well, it looks like nobody's going to ask another question.
I'm so glad I answered everybody's questions in my presentation and that all doubt has been erased.
I had expected a lot of more questions, so I'm a little bit surprised. Some of those, as I say, some of those figures could be, they're difficult to understand exactly what they're saying. You have to, but we don't need to get into that. I've had to study some of those and get help on understanding some of them. Where you see the lines above, above and below zero. What is zero? Well, it turns out to be an average, an average figure over some period of time. So they're kind of hard to understand if you don't know exactly what you're looking at.
Well, I just want to make a comment. This is John. I keep busy, but I've been popping back and forth. The one thing is that there's a lot of information in there, and trying to digest it all in a half an hour is wow. But the one that I don't think it's more of a question, but so more of a comment, and that is that it's a very slow process, I've noticed, where people begin to comprehend exactly what the danger is from climate change. And yet the climate change deniers are just constantly in full force. Newspapers, periodicals, online, social media, and it's very overwhelming just to listen to all this negativity. But I am glad to hear and see what you have presented, and I can't wait to see the entire video once we have it published on our website. I want to watch it.
Awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point about the climate deniers because they're often the loudest bunch. But the good news is that I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Yale Center on Climate Change Communication, but they did a study and they found that I think of the United States population, only 8% of people are climate change deniers. Everybody else is either fully on board or still kind of not sure, but can be swayed, so to speak. So even though the climate change deniers are super loud, especially in Texas, very vocal, they make up a very small part of the population. We outnumber them. So just ignore them and go for the people who need to be brought over.
Well, sadly, they're the majority in our state legislature right now.
Yeah, well, sometimes a certain type of person ends up becoming a politician. So,
Well, it all comes down to money. Money is what drives all of this. That's what drives politics in general. And the naysayers are the people who stand to make money one way or another off of continuing to pump oil and natural gas and coal and so on. A good
Yep.
guy to look at for this is what's his name from West Virginia?
Oh,
Oh,
Manchin?
Munchkin. Yeah, Joe Munchkin. There's a guy who, you know, is just strictly in the pocket of big coal. I mean, that's where his fortune comes from. And so
Yeah.
as long as we have people, politics, oh, I'm getting on a soapbox. I probably don't want to do that. But the problem with our country is that politics is driven by money. And as long as politicians need millions and millions of dollars to get elected, where's that going to come from? You know, it's not coming from climate action groups. It's coming from big oil, big coal, and so on and so forth. Big pharma. And that's our problem, you know, campaign finance reform has been introduced. And of course, it never goes anywhere in Congress. McCain-Feingold tried to introduce campaign finance reform a couple of times. But of course, they aren't interested in it because they want that money so they can get elected and reelected. So there's an area where we could work politically that doesn't seem directly related to climate, but it is, if you know what I'm trying to say. Well,
you said there was potential for offshore wind farms. Did I hear you say that?
Yes, actually, yes. The BOEM put out a potential sale or a potential notice of sale semi-recently.
So what are there bids? Are there people bidding on it?
There will be
Companies?
eventually. I think they're still doing the environmental impact assessment. So they're looking at like whale migration and potential, like, you know, you want to make sure whatever you put in there is going to be good for the environment. So I think they're still working on that. But once that is passed, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act kind of coming into play, I do see a lot of like, yeah, basically what will happen is different companies will bid on the acreage and then they'll start building the offshore wind farms.
In Texas?
Just off of Galveston. I think 2 nautical miles is what they said.
Okay.
I'd have to go back. So that's
to know.
exciting.
Yeah.
Texas is the #1 producer of wind generated electricity in the country. And that's at this point, that's all terrestrial wind farms.
Right.
Yeah. What's exciting about offshore wind is that it has the potential for so much more because the wind's constantly blowing on the ocean and they can be bigger. So
And they got to withstand hurricanes.
yeah, that's hopefully that's where our good engineers
But
will
not 0
come in.
degree weather, so that's a plus.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
You never know.
Well,
with
We
that.
got 0 degrees down there. We might not have a global warming problem.
Well, that's a mistake you don't want to make.
Yeah.
You know, just because it's like that idiot that threw a snowball in the Senate.
Yeah.
Who was
Yeah.
that? I forget.
There's no
Oklahoma.
climate. There's no global warming.
As proof that the global warming was not true. Boy, you talk about stupid,
Gotcha. Yeah.
you know?
He was a doctor too.
A doctor of what? Stupidity?
MD.
Oh, that
well-
wasn't our doctor from Texas, was it? House
No,
Representative?
Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. We got one there.
We don't
So-
talk about Oklahoma.
You know where his money to get elected and stay in Congress comes from?
I suppose. I
Well, I don't
suppose.
suppose. It comes from oil and gas. There's no doubt about it.
You mentioned offshore wind power. Yesterday, and I've been struggling to remember where I saw it or read it, but Denmark is a leader in offshore wind power. They have solar wind farms offshore, which they have been in production for, gosh, I think at least a couple of decades. So, I mean, it's being done and it's been very successful.
Yeah, and I think they're studying a lot of like what the countries that have been doing it more often are doing to try and facilitate success, looking at like design of the wind turbine arms and all of that engineering business that I don't understand, but
Yes.
Okay, well,
Thank you all.
if there are no other questions, then I guess we're pretty much done for the evening. Thank you very much, Alex. It was a very interesting presentation, full of information. And
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
I think that there was so much information that people may not have been able to formulate their questions as it went by. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's okay. I know it was a lot, guys, and I'm so sorry for that, but I appreciate your patience. And if you do think of a question, I just put my email in the chat. Feel free to grab that. I am available probably more often than I should be. I'm not good at boundaries, but feel free to send me a question, or if you have a collaboration or a project you're working on, and we can see what we can do at DFW
Can
Climate
you email
Reality.
those links?
Sure. Yeah, I can send out. Yeah, if you send me an email for what you want, I will send you the links for what you want. And if you want like a PDF of the presentation, I can do that as well.
Well, the slide went by with all the links. So if you can maybe send a presentation, we could find the links, and that'd be great.
Sounds
you.
good.
Well, Alex, thank you very much. I think that after everybody looks at all that information, then we can formulate some questions. And you apologize for the information. You have no idea how much information that was and how much we appreciate that information.
Yes.
And people need to see that, because we're at a point to where we're going to have to start trying to swing some of these people over so that they understand. And especially when you're out in the community, there are lots of people in the community, like I said, that just do not believe it because they have other priorities, you know?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
With one of our community meetings for District 8, it was back when we were trying to talk to them about recycling and the McComas Bluff. And one lady stood up and she said, I don't even have a maintained store where I can get a gallon of milk. She said, I have to leave the neighborhood to get a gallon of milk. So with those kind of priorities, it's difficult in the communities that I work in to try to, get that thinking going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that's, again, where like the justice aspect of things come in. It's like, yes, it's affecting everybody, but we also need to make sure we're doing our part, because people do have higher priorities or more immediate priorities for them than this like big concept of climate change. It's like, okay, the earth is warming, but I have to walk 5 miles to get food.
Right. But thank you so much. And I will get back with you.
Thanks, Renee. Yeah, send me a Teams message if you need to.
Yeah, okay, I'm at work tomorrow, actually.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, well, we finished up a little early, but in the absence of any further questions, I think we're done for the evening. Are you still with us, John?
Yes, I'm back here.
Okay. You probably don't want to hang around for people to talk this evening.
That's all right for right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, basically I'm dismissing the meeting, but John will hang around for a few minutes if there's some of you who want to talk to each other after we formally close the meeting, which is going to be right now. Okay. So thanks again, and thanks everybody who attended. Thank you, John, for hosting again. Good evening.
Welcome.
And
thank you.
Happy holidays to all of you. And good night.
Everybody.
Good night, Dan.
Good night.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Alex, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Not as much as we did, I can assure you that. We got the better.
Once all of the like loading circles in front of people's eyes kind of settle in. It's like, here's all this information.
I'm definitely going to go back when it's posted on our website, your presentation. I'm going to go back and definitely look at it.
Cool. Yeah, and I can send you the PDF if you want that too beforehand.
Okay, well, I will get that email and I will pop that out to you and ask for it then. That'll be good.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'll peace out. But again, thank you for having me. Let me know if y'all ever want to come. If you ever have anybody that wants to speak at one of our events, we're always looking for guest speakers as well.
Oh, good.
It's a good time. Or if y'all have any projects that you need some support on, we will happily get the word out.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good night, Alex.
Have a good night. Bye.